All right, and welcome to the English Language Testing Society's monthly webinar. My name is Michael Fields, and I'm at the University of Delaware, and I want to welcome all of you to our webinar today on norming for rubric-based grading. If you did not, I sent an email yesterday. I gave some texts that you'll need. If you haven't pulled those up yet, you can do that now, because you will need those in a few minutes. And we'll be doing some work in breakout rooms today where you'll be working with those texts. But let's go ahead and thank our sponsor, ITEP, for today's webinar. And let's go ahead and get started. And again, I'm screen sharing now, so I don't really see all of you. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to just shout out. I may not see your raised hands. So yeah, let's talk first about what can go wrong with rating scale based marking. So if you have new raters that have never used the rating scale or the rubric before, rubric, by the way, is an American word. Rating scale is the English word. It doesn't matter. It's the same thing, right? Just two terms for the same thing. So if there are new raters, they may not interpret the descriptors in the same way that most people do. So that might cause some kind of inconsistency, right? Or if you are using a new rating scale, the descriptors might be unfamiliar, and even though you have seasoned examiners, they might be interpreted differently. So that's one thing we can consider. But even if you're if you have the same group of examiners, the same standards, the same rubric or rating scale, still we see things that sometimes go wrong. For example, without norming, we see that some people tend to make these incremental increases in their rating over weeks and months, right? If they start out, this paper is a C, and the next time they rate it might be a C plus, and the next time they rate it might be a B minus, et cetera, et cetera. So they might just incrementally increase their scores. On the other hand, some people might just incrementally decrease their scores as time goes on. And if they're not brought back in to that norm, they're just going to get farther and farther off track, right? We have another kind of error in norming called central tendency, where we see a rater giving the same score or a similar score, and that tends to be kind of the middle score. No matter what the performance on the part of the student, we see that the rater is just always never risking to go too high, never risking to go too low, but always kind of rating everyone sort of in the middle. Or we might have raters that just score randomly. So even if you gave them the same paper, that same paper might get an A plus one day and an F minus the next day, and the next day is C plus. So this kind of random scoring. So these are the kinds of errors we see when we don't bring our raters, our examiners, our teachers back into norm. And one more thing is some people, if we see them giving consistent flat profiles, in other words, this essay got, and here's a 5-point rating scale that we're just using as an example. This essay got a 4 on every category, and my next essay got a 3 on every category, and my next essay got a 5 on every category. If we see that going on, sometimes those are the right scores, but if we see consistent flat scores, what that may indicate, and I want to stress may, what that may indicate is this backfill, where the rater is kind of making an impression on an overall, oh, I think this is about a B paper, I think this is about a C paper, and then going in and backfilling every category in order to justify why they gave it that score. But that's not really using the rubric appropriately. That's more of giving an impression and then just going back and justifying their impression through the rubric. So these are all the kinds of things that we see when raters are not normed. Okay. We know, most of you probably know already, norming is essential. Ever since communicative language teaching started, remember, communicative language teaching, CLT, depends on authentic interactions, group and pair work, using realia, and especially contextualized language input, contextualized language output. And when we look at output, we're looking at longer contextualized answers, longer speech samples, longer writing samples. Not things, we're not only marking for the grammar or the pronunciation or something like this. We're looking at every aspect of their speech or writing. So when we get these long, authentic or near authentic, somewhat authentic language samples, when we grade them with a rubric, it increases both the validity and the reliability of scoring. So that's a really good reason to use a rubric. But again, in order to maintain rater interreliability, that I and you and he and she, that we all can give the same score based on the same production, the same student production, we really need to norm. Okay. Question. Jorge, do you have a question, comment? Okay, great. I thought maybe there was. All right. Why do we norm? We norm to refamiliarize teachers or raters with the rubrics, and we also just to remember what the rubrics look like, what we should be looking at, because as time goes on, people tend to forget, and also bringing teachers or raters into alignment or into norm, either to a standard or to each other. Sometimes there's a standard, sometimes there is no standard. So if there's a standard, that might be a model essay that we norm to, or a set of model essays. And when teachers norm, they can be right or wrong. They can be correct or incorrect. If we're norming to a standard, the teacher could simply be wrong. Now, no, that's the wrong score, right? But often we don't have a standard. We don't have a model. And often our goal is to norm to each other. So in that case, we're trying to bring all teachers into agreement, although there's no standard. So we can't say that someone is right or wrong, but we want to bring everyone into agreement with each other. So these are really our two models, norming to a standard or norming to the group. Okay. So very quickly, and Bobby gave us an example of her norming in New York, I think. Did you say, Bobby?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm just going to add that was a really good explanation. I just want to add a couple things that may make it an even more fulfilling experience. So how do we run a norming session? First, as Bobby said, we're going to review the rubric and the descriptors with the teachers or the raters. So just go over it one more time, make sure that everyone's familiar with the descriptors and what they're looking for. Then provide several sample essays and have a group discussion where everyone works together in a whole group. They're allowed to give their opinions, say what they want, and people should come to an agreement on how to assign ratings. And the next step is to have teachers break up into pairs or small groups and work together and discuss together in order to rate a second set of model essays or maybe speech samples. And in this case, heard some background noise. In this case, when we're doing this, what we hope happens is that the first set that we did as a group allows teachers, that's a kind of learning experience, and it guides teachers to work through the process when they're working in their small groups. And then the next step would be to have teachers or raters work alone and assign ratings, and then again, share it with the whole group. So that in each step, first working as a whole group, then working in small groups where you discuss and come to agreement, and then working individually as a kind of a test, if you like. Each step serves as a learning experience that guides teachers through the norming process, so that each step, we hope, brings people more and more into alignment. Okay. So that's a very simple model, but I don't want to spend too much time talking today because we're going to practice this. All right, so let's practice. And let's review the rubric together. Now you have the rubric, and I am just going to, and of course I haven't pulled that up, just a second. I'm the guilty one. Let me just bring that up. Here it is. All right. So let's quickly, and for the purposes of time, we're going to do this rather quickly, but let's look at our rubric. And I'm going to ask Suzanne, well, what we're going to do, I think, is just look at some of the categories at the A level. So this rubric, I should start out by saying this rubric is divided into task completion and coherence, organization and cohesion, grammar and structure, and vocabulary. And you can assign, there's a 5-point scale. You can assign a 5, a 4, a 3, and we'll go down a 2 or a 1. And just to give you an idea of what these numbers mean, of course, the descriptors are the most important. But to give you a little sort of help along the way, we might define a 5 as the outstanding essay. And we might define 4 as the strong essay. And we'll define 3 as the level appropriate or the standard essay. And if we just go down, 2 would be the threshold essay, and 1 is the failing essay. And now to make things a little more, to be a little more precise, sometimes if you feel that, this essay I'm looking at, it's really, I'm thinking it's a 4 in this category. I'm thinking it's a 4, but really, it's more than a 4. It's not really a 5, but it's more than a 4. What we're going to do with this rubric is we can also give a 4+, which means it exceeds the descriptors in the 4, but it doesn't really completely match the descriptors in the 5, something in between. And we can give a plus at every level, except the 1. The fail is a fail. So you can give a 2+, a 3+, a 4+, or a 5+. And if we can do this for every category, of course, right? So let's just take a moment, and Suzanne Hale, can I ask you to read we'll start with the 5, the best category. For task completion, what are the outstanding points that you see there for the task completion and the 5 level?
Oh, just the second category. Hold on. The paragraphs are extremely well developed, theological topics, no relevancy, very well chosen, inclusion of sufficient and relevant information.
I'm sorry, are we looking at the same?
I guess just 5. I was looking at 5.
Okay.
Oh, just read the
what do you if you look at the 5, what are the things that stand out to you as the most important criteria, the key words that you would look for?
Clearly developed, logical, no trouble following the argument or topic, the ideas and language, and organization adds to clarity.
Okay, all right. So, and I also want to just point out that the bold, these are really thresholds, so that if you cannot say yes to this, then we cannot award the 5. That's sort of how this rubric works. Okay. And I'm just going to call on Asanji. Is it Asanji? Are you there? Okay. Galina, how are you? Galina, are you there? I think we have a lot of people enjoying the good weather today.
Which one? I'm Galina too.
Okay, whoever's speaking, I'm sorry, I don't see everyone. So whoever's speaking, could you read the level? Yeah. Could you read the level 3 descriptors and tell me what stands out to you for task completion and coherence?
3.
Yes.
Sorry, the internet traffic is a little bit. Okay, the essay is on task with a clearly stated thesis or purpose, generally intelligible and adequately developed. It is generally coherent and logically developed, though there may be details.
Oh, sorry, just a second. What's happened to my cursor? Now here we are.
The third level, yes.
Yes, yes, yes. Go ahead.
That they're under or out of place.
Great.
Well,
Okay. So what stands out to you there?
Intelligible, adequately developed, coherent, and logically developed.
Okay.
To my mind, these are very important criteria to take into account.
Yeah. So what makes it different from a 5? Anyone can answer that. What makes it different from a 5?
Well, excuse me if I may join in. The difference is that it is just generally intelligible. It is not so clearly organized, and it does not necessarily follow argument, and it is, I think, not so. The essay is on task with the clearly stated. Well, it's just generally intelligible, but not specifically, probably. It does not substantiate
Not
with adequate.
completely.
Yeah,
That's right.
If you allow me
Yeah, go ahead.
to continue, in 5, there is not the teacher might feel that mother tongue influence.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, look at these sort of hedging words in at the 3 level, right? The generally, adequately, generally coherent, and there might be some details that are out of place or unclear, right? Okay. Let's go ahead and look at Anaid. Can you read? You don't need to read everything, but just for organization and cohesion, what really stands out to you as the key points that you would look for?
Extremely well developed. Extremely, yeah. Very well chosen inclusion. Well managed correctly.
Great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everything, but with stronger modifiers, yes.
Yeah, and let's just look great. So Anaid was looking that's fine. Anaid was mainly looking at adjectives and adverbs. Let's look at what were the nouns. What are we looking at? Paragraphs, topics,
Cohesion,
information,
reference.
cohesion, right? Referencing, substitution, transitions, all of those things we're looking for. Absolutely. Absolutely. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm just going to call on people. Jorge, how are you? Jorge, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. Can you look at the level 3 and again, just what stands out to you in terms of the organization?
Was this that the each paragraph is clear, adequate support for topic, the topic sentence. Yeah, and then we have also, yeah, we got numerous cohesive devices. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so let's look at how it might be different from an A. A C might be different from an A. So again, we see these words like adequate. There may be a few irrelevant sentences. It says that cohesion is attempted. They try. They might use some cohesive devices incorrectly. It might distort the message, right?
Yeah.
Okay, referencing and substitution are attempted, but they might be incorrect or repetitive. All right. Let's go ahead and look at the grammar. And Bobby, can you look at the A level and just tell us quickly what you see that really stands out to you in grammar?
Sentence variety, complex and compound complex sentences, correct form, meaning is clear, and then there are some specifics of advanced grammar that is used.
Exactly. And that's mainly put there because we might not all agree on what we mean by, well, we know what complex and compound sentences are, but we're looking for more than just basic sentences, right? And these are all examples of the kind of complexity of grammar that we might find. And Dominique, can you read the C level and tell us what we're seeing there that stands out to you?
Sure. Level 3, right?
Yeah.
So I would say complex sentences are regularly attempted. Frequent errors, though there are frequent errors.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning generally is clear.
Mm-hmm.
Most verb tenses are appropriate and correct.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. So yeah, we see that complex sentences are attempted. So we might not be seeing as much accuracy with the complex sentences as we do with the simple sentences. So here we're looking for simple sentences generally correct, complex sentences attempted, maybe not correct. And these errors may sometimes distort the message, right? And finally, let's look at the vocabulary. And again, we'll look at the A range and the C range. Eleonora, are you there?
Hi, Michael. I'm here, but I'm surrounded by a lot of people and teachers and students because this is our first day of classes here at the Institute. So that's why, I will text, okay?
Okay.
If you don't mind, because it's kind of embarrassing or awkward.
We'll call on someone else. That's fine. Jennifer, are you there? Jennifer Lacano, are you there?
Hi, yes.
Great. Why don't you tell us, looking at vocabulary, what's at the A level, at the level 5, what stands out to you?
To me, the wider range and advanced, and then it's correct most of the time, frequent collocations, and then the vocabulary enhances the writing.
Yeah, great, great. And Pearlie, can you tell us what you're looking at the C level?
Yes, hello. What I see here is that the vocabulary is generally correct. There is not so much precision when it comes to wording. And some of the advanced words are used incorrectly.
Great. Great. But we do see that the vocabulary, it's sufficient. Maybe not more, but it's sufficient to develop the topic, right? All right. So now let's turn to your first essay. I believe it's called Redacted 1, if I remember correctly. And you should be able to pull this up. I'm putting it on the screen. I hope everyone can see that. I'm putting it on the screen, but I don't know how clear that is. So if we just take a few minutes to read that, and then I would just like people to start discussing. So take a few minutes to have a look at it. And do you need a few minutes, or is everyone ready? You need a few minutes? All right. I'm just going to pause the recording then. Oh, no. I almost stopped it. All right, I'm just going to pause. All right, let's see if we can discuss this. So this first time we're going to discuss as a whole group. And I want to hear from you. I might give my opinion too, but I want to say very important is this is not a model essay. I don't have the right answers, so feel free to disagree with me. In fact, I don't want to say too much unless the conversation breaks down. So let me share the rubric again. And I want to hear from you. How do people feel about this? And first of all, is there anyone that would go down to the 2 or the 1 level? Or can we look at the 3, 4, 5 level?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it's a three.
Yeah.
For which category?
Maybe organization and some kind of logical development, but with a lot of grammar mistakes, some basic
Okay.
grammar
Let's-
mistakes.
Yeah, let's try to deal with each category. The way to do this is to look at each category individually. This is really, I think, one of the wonderful things about a rubric is we're able to we call this an analytic rubric because of the fact that we can look at each of these categories individually. So rather than just thinking, well, it's organized, there's grammar, let's really focus in on each one. So let's start out with the task completion and coherence.
I think it's a strong 4.
A strong 4. Okay, why?
Because they do develop the arguments with examples, how things work within the family. So there is an idea, and then there are concrete examples. And yeah, so because the ideas are very well developed, and I can really see they carry the argument. So I would even say a 4+ for task completion and coherence.
Okay. Anyone have a different idea?
I guess I'd put it more in the 3 category.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, why is that?
I guess most of the language is fairly simple, not very complex.
Sorry, are we
lot of-
looking at the first category?
No, I guess I would put it in more the 3. Or I guess we want to stick with the,
Just the first,
don't-
just the task completion and coherence for now.
okay, it's fairly coherent, just the grammar and structures got problems.
Okay. Well, we'll come to the grammar later, but we want to really think about
Okay.
this one category. What would you so and again, I think what's really important when we do rubric-based marking is that we don't ourselves make a judgment, but that we match the performance to the descriptors. And the rubric is going to reveal the score. So we're not giving a score in the same way that if we gave a multiple choice test, we teachers, we don't
Right.
get a score, right? So the rubric is going to allow the score to be revealed by matching the performance to the descriptors. That's really the idea. Other comments?
I mean, it is organized. I mean, it does stay on topic
Okay.
and give examples.
Let's do it this way. Let's look at this. The essay is clear and intelligible in all main points and details. Is there anyone that would say no to that? Is there anyone? Because if you say no to this, then we cannot give it a 4, right? Is there anyone that wants to say no? I don't think that's true.
I don't think it's true.
Okay, why is that?
Intelligible in all main points and details. There's some progression, but it's and the ideas, but I think it has the ideas, but they're, I don't know, they just generally coherent, but there may be some details. And it's just clearly stated, generally intelligible, adequately developed, but there's enough problems in it that it comes out as generally not totally intelligible. I don't know.
Okay, all right. This is fine. We are just at the beginning of our norming process. So if we disagree, that's fine. Let's go on to organization and cohesion. And again, please just shout out what score do you think you would give it for its organization?
So I tend to be, I guess, a strict grader, but I think I was aiming towards 1 or 2 in each category, and this particular category, looking at the introduction paragraph, I just felt like the prompt asked to define the difference between men and women's household responsibilities, and I thought, although that was mentioned, then the student jumped to another topic in the introduction, so I wasn't quite clear what they were going to write about when they started the first body paragraph. So for that reason, I would give this a 2 or a 1.
Okay. Okay, we'll remember that. I don't want to scroll up and down because I'm circling here, but we'll remember that you're giving it less. We'll just mentally remember that. Good. Other comments?
I'm the opposite. I'm not very strict. And I think in terms of organization, this is a 4 or a 5, even a 4+ or a 5, because I think it does set out to talk about males and females in Chinese society. And it uses transition words on one hand, and then later on, even though on the other hand. So one paragraph begins on one hand, the next paragraph on the other hand, although. So, and then there is a conclusion that even though it may not seem fair, it is, we have these rules that guide our society. So I think it's fine.
Okay.
I think it's strong.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else? I'm going to make a comment, and I wonder what people think about it, but I'd like to hear from other people first. Anyone else want to make a comment?
I would agree it is a 4. I guess that the paragraphs are well developed, and I can see the difference between one paragraph and the other, and the sequence of the paragraph seems to be okay. Although there are some issues regarding referencing or renaming some, repeating some of the terms, but in general terms, I would give it a 4 too.
Okay. I'm going to throw out something here, and please feel free to disagree. I want to hear what you think. One of the problems I have with this essay is, in terms of organization, let's look at this topic sentence. On one hand, okay, good cohesive device. On one hand, Chinese men always work very hard outside. And I think he means outside the home, right? And that's not in fresh air, but anyway. So maybe that's a little vocabulary problem, but I would expect this paragraph to be all about men. And then I would expect, based on this sentence, this topic sentence, I would expect probably the next paragraph to be all about women. But what he's done, if you notice, is he's gone, as this paragraph goes on, he starts to talk about women here also. So he kind of mixes up men's roles and women's roles in this.
Yeah.
And in this paragraph, he says, on the other hand, women are more relaxed in society. They have a lower family state. I would expect this paragraph to be all about women, but then he goes back to, he starts talking about comparing men and women. So how do you feel? I mean, maybe that's fine. Maybe you think that's okay. How do you feel about that organization? Do you think that's okay, or do you think that we should see that as a problem?
I agree that the topic sentence should shape it, what's coming, and not. I like your point about the topic that should control what happens, what's developed, and not start mixing other things in. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And feel free to disagree. I mean, really, this is not a model. We're norming to each other. So I don't have any special answers here. Just curious what you think. All right.
I think cohesion is attempted through numerous cohesive devices, although they're used incorrectly. And so I think this, on the one hand, that I guess in a way it started out okay, and then, but it doesn't really follow what follows, doesn't follow that that topic sentence, doesn't hold it. And I'm not sure if that's cohesion or if it's a topic.
Okay. Let's go quickly to grammar. Anyone want to give an opinion about grammar?
I guess I put it at a number 3. on
Okay,
the
why?
grammar.
Yes.
Why is that?
They're just it's just not clear. And most of the descriptions are using simple vocabulary, but I guess there are just quite a few errors.
Okay. Anyone else?
Well,
I would
maybe
also
if the person,
sorry.
no, if the person had gone back and reread it, maybe they might have noticed things like that, but it probably wasn't the case, I'm gathering. Just because things are crossed out and then gone back, put something else. And maybe some of the simplified grammar could have been a little bit more appropriate.
Okay. Anyone else? Galina, Alexandra?
Yeah. I want to say that the author indeed tried to or attempted to use complex sentences, but he or she didn't manage to do it thoroughly. There are enough errors.
Okay. Alexandra, I think you wanted
Yes,
to
the
say.
message,
Yes.
the overall meaning is rendered, but due to but due to the mistakes, it's difficult to understand the overall meaning.
Okay.
Or the details.
Okay.
I also agree that the transition from one paragraph to another paragraph is abrupt. It's not so clear.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is like maybe most people are saying about a 3 for grammar. Is there anyone that wants to disagree with that?
Well, in the beginning, I thought grammar mistakes didn't hinder me to understand what the writer wanted to say, but according to this rubric, I guess 2 could be correct too, because it says while simple sentences are often correct, complex structures usually contain errors. And however, the message was clear for me, so I am somewhat in the middle between 3 and 2.
And that would be a good
They
time to
were,
give 2+.
yeah.
That would be exactly what we
Yes.
want, right? And that's
Yes.
very well said. I'm really in the middle between a 2 and a 3. This 2 doesn't sound like enough, but the 3, he's not quite there. That's a 2. That's exactly what a 2+ is. Yeah. Okay. Finally, vocabulary. Comments on vocabulary.
In my case, I was in the middle of the 3 and the 2 for vocabulary. I thought that general vocabulary was used mainly correctly, but there were some problems with more advanced vocabulary. And that's why then I finally opted for number 3. But at the beginning, I was in the middle between the 2 and the 3.
Okay, and you want to stick with your 3, or do you feel like a 2+ might be good?
Maybe a 2+ might be good. I'd like to hear more arguments.
Okay. Anyone else? Vocabulary.
I'd probably put it at the 2+.
Okay.
It's fairly simple vocabulary overall. Nothing too complex at all.
Okay. All
I
right.
would agree.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I would agree. This is, when it comes to vocabulary, it's closer to a 2 than a 3.
So you would give it not a 2+, but a 2, maybe?
A 2.
All right. Great. All right. Now, in the interest of time, if you could take out your second essay called, I think it's called Redacted 2, and I'm going to put you into groups. And in the interest of time, I'm going to give you about 7 minutes. I hope that's enough. What I would like you to do is look at the essay, discuss it together, and try to come to an agreement on the rating. And that's really important. In a real norming, you would want to have everyone come to an agreement on the rating. Sometimes we can't do it, and that's life. I mean, we're not always able to agree, but we would like to see people start to agree. All right. So I'm going to pause the recording. All right. Looks like everyone's coming back. Normally the webinar is over after 1 hour, and if you need to leave, I understand. I can stay a little longer if you like. I'd like to at least see what your scores are. So please feel free to leave, or please feel free to stay if you like. It's no problem for me. Let's look at group 1, which is Asanji and Casey. And if you have a spokesperson, I would for now, just like to get your scores. Casey.
Hi.
Yes.
We didn't really have a chance to do a lot of communication, but can give you my feedback.
Okay, wonderful. Let's do that.
I felt that for the first column for task completion and coherence, it was possibly a 3+ because it was easy to follow. There was logical sequencing in the back and forth pattern that was presented. But I didn't go as high as a 4 because I felt that some of the details were not as clear as they could have been in completely following that. So potentially a 3+ at best.
Okay. And this organization?
For organization, I feel like I followed the same thing as far as like a 3. The paragraphing was there, like I said. It was pretty unified and consistent throughout, and they had the topic sentences. The details were okay, but I felt like some of them were a little superfluous and not necessary.
Okay. And the grammar and structure? The
grammar structure, I felt that it was a little distorted at times. There were definitely some nuances that created a little confusion, but you could still understand what was being said. So I put it at a 2+.
All right. And the vocabulary?
And that was a solid 2.
Solid 2. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Room 2, Eleonora and Galina. Can someone, and I'm sorry that you didn't have a chance, room 1, to communicate more, because that's really part of the process, but we're very limited for time here. So I apologize. Room 2, Eleonora and Galina. Someone want to report your scores?
Well, we decided that for the task completion and coherence, we will give a 3. We can motivate it with generally intelligible, it's adequately developed, it has some logics, but that's all.
Okay, and
with organ physics. Then we go on with the second one, organization and cohesion, is also a 3. It's not 3+. There are some cohesive devices, and
okay, the grammar?
With the grammar structure, it's 2+. Yes, the grammar is distorted. It's difficult to understand. There are a lot of mistakes. However, the author managed to render some meaning, some ideas. Okay. And the vocabulary is also 3. Yes. So the overall, it's a 3.
Right, and that's exactly what my computer is telling me, that you got a 3 overall. Everyone's seeing my screen, right? I hope, the spreadsheet, yeah? Great. Dominique, Jennifer, and Suzanne.
Yeah, I guess I can speak. So again, we didn't really have a chance to talk much about.
I'm sorry.
But I think we gave it a 2 for the task completion, because it seemed to be more about attitudes towards household chores, not necessarily the actual responsibilities that men versus women have. It was more about, like I said, attitudes towards towards that. And so for me, I actually kept scrolling back to the questions, was trying to figure out which question was the student trying to answer. For organization and cohesion, I think we also had a 2. Dom, is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Do you want to explain that one?
Sure. Basically, so it starts out the intro paragraph talking about the difference between men and women, and then in the middle, jumping to the household responsibility. And I think at the very end of the paper, if I remember, it totally talked about something other than household responsibilities. So the organization throughout the essay was very scattered among the topics. So that's why I felt the 2 would be sufficient.
All right. And grammar.
Grammar, I think 2, maybe 2+. And then vocabulary as well, a 2, because there were some words that we're using correctly that were just confusing as I was trying to read it quickly. So yeah, I think that would be it for us.
Great, thank you, thank you. Room 4, we're on room 4. That's Jorge and Rosario. Anyone from room 2, from room 4?
Yeah.
Yep.
We agreed that for task completion and coherence, we gave it a 3. We were in the middle of the 2 and the 3, but then we thought that the essay remained on task and it was generally intelligible. So we went for the 3 there. For organization and cohesion, we opted for a 2+. We thought that there were paragraphs, but the topic sentences were not too clear, and the supporting details did not add too much to what was communicated. And then for grammar structure, a 2, and again, most of the grammar used was simple, no attempt to use more advanced grammar. And the same happened with vocabulary, a 2, because most of the vocabulary is basic, and for grammar and vocabulary as well, there were errors that needed to be considered there.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Rosario. Anaid and Margaret in room 5. What have you got?
We had some problems finding the file, so we could hardly manage to read it.
I'm sorry.
But again, whatever we managed to discuss was very close to group 4. So I personally would do the same.
You want to give it the same?
Okay. Yeah.
I think we also thought there was no title, so you weren't quite sure how it connected with the prompt. And so at some point we didn't have time to spend more time on that and just moved on to and
to discuss whether it was it was to the title. We were looking for the title, then we realized it was the same as the previous one, probably, and then we wasted some time.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm sorry. In a good norming, we would have more time, but we're limited on time here. So group 6, we have only Alexandra left. Alexandra, do you want to make a comment?
Yeah, it seems that Pearlie left the meeting and we didn't have the opportunity to read the last page. We read only the first 2 pages. Well, I don't know. In my opinion, I would give it a 3 for the first column, because, well, there are these characteristics. I mean, it is generally, this is a 3, yeah, it is generally intelligible, and, well, it is kind of adequately developed, but I have problems with paragraphs. I think they are not handled adequately, because he uses, or she, comparison in each and every sentence, and it should be, in my opinion, it should be organized. If it is an argumentative essay, then first he could describe women, female tasks and responsibilities, and then, I think I will give it 3, 2, grammar, 2, vocabulary, 2, in my humble opinion, because I didn't have the opportunity to see the complete essay, and we also couldn't establish the exact topic.
Okay.
So let it be
right.
3, 2, 3, 2, 2, 2. Yeah.
Wonderful, thank you. So let's just, and again, I want to say that in a good norming session, you would have more time and probably more than one essay to do with your partner. And then the last step, of course, which we don't have time, is that you would rate them on your own, and then we would compare the ratings afterwards. But let's just look, and we see that we've already got a lot of agreement here. We're all in the 3 range if we ignore the plus and the pluses. We're all in the 3 range with 1 outlier, but that's pretty typical. Here in organization, we're not quite in agreement. We're all in the same area. We're looking at 2, 2+ and 3. Yeah, so we're very much in the same area, but not quite there. We've only got 1, 2 actually. Looks like group 3 might be rating a little on the low side compared with everyone else. Everyone else, we've got 2 pluses and 3. So lots of consistency there. Grammar, amazing. We're all in the 2 range, and vocabulary, we're all in the 2 range with 1 outlier. Okay. So even in this very quick, too quick, this was not done professionally whatsoever. It was just an example. I hope it was done professionally, but we didn't have enough time to do it well, to be quite honest. But even there, we were able to come to quite a bit of agreement. So you can imagine if you had the opportunity to norm well, that I think people would come to a much closer to a standard after about 6 or 7 essays. Any final comments from anyone? I hope this was a worthwhile, worth your time to spend today, and I hope you've learned something. Any comments? Last comments? And I do apologize for going over. I think some people have left, which is fine. Thank you for staying if you did. I'd like to thank our sponsor again, ITEP, for sponsoring today's webinar. And thank you for coming and participating. And I will see you next month. Kaveh, you've come. Kaveh, hello, how are you? He's raised his hand. Okay.
Hello, Michael. One of the issues we normally have, it is the rater's cognition. For example, an instructor who pays a lot of attention to the grammar, when he or she sees something like this, attach too much importance to something, or I don't know, the students have used inverted structure, like not only did I something like this. How we are as the instructors can minimize the role of, let's say, rater cognitions, because in either way, the students is trying to impress us. So for some instructors, they are interested on collocations, some vocabularies, okay? And when they are, let's say, rating their students' writing, they see that they pay a lot of attention to lexical bundles, collocations, or phrasal verbs. Do you have, as an experience, as a mentor, any kind of, let's say, strategy to minimize our rater cognition? The students do not manipulate us, do not impress us when we are scoring their, let's say, essays.
Yes, I have a lot to say about that. I'll try to be a little bit brief. If you have to go, if you're willing to stay, that's wonderful. If you need to go, I understand. That's a really good question. Now, what we could do, Kaveh, I have an idea for how we could make our writing tests much more reliable. In fact, perfectly reliable. We just do multiple choice. Margaret's shaking her head. Why not, Margaret? It's going to be a very reliable test. We just ask them questions about writing. Margaret, what's wrong with that?
It's about writing, and it's not their own writing.
It's not valid. It's not a valid. So I can
right. It's valid, yeah.
I could make a perfectly reliable writing test, but it would have no validity whatsoever. In order to have validity, we need to bring in production. And when we bring in production, we need to have human raters. And when we have human raters, we're going to lose some reliability. So Kaveh, you're absolutely right that different people put an emphasis maybe on different things, different aspects of the writing. But what the rubric, the analytic rubric tries to do is makes everyone aware of all the different aspects. So even if I am the grammar person and I want to see perfect grammar, and Kaveh thinks as long as he expresses himself, it's okay. And Kaveh is really looking at organization and topic development, right? Well, even though he believes that, he still, because of our rubric, he must consider the grammar. And even me, the grammar guru who doesn't care about anything else, I'm forced to consider the organization and the development, right? So the idea of the rubric is no matter what your bias is, we force everyone to consider all the categories. Now, I know it's not perfect. But the rubrics will increase the reliability because we are requiring everyone to look at all the categories. So no, it's not perfect. If we make a perfectly reliable test, it's not going to be valid anymore.
Yeah.
So we need to balance those aspects. And when we have human raters, we will never come to complete agreement. And I don't think there's no way around that unless you do machine scoring. But I have my own, and there's a lot of machine scoring now. I have my own doubts about machine scoring. I could tell you a really funny story if anyone wants to hear a funny story. Yeah.
It could happen to the machine scoring as well. When the students are using some prefabricated chunks, they can, let's say, manipulate the machine as well, attach too much importance to something, or they are memorizing, okay, and they are trying to use those structures.
That's right. And I think Margaret, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think what Kaveh is saying is good because they can, students will try to learn the structured, say the transition things and stick them in and make it look organized so that initially we're being manipulated, but then we have to look beyond their, and I remember when I've done rating with another organization, we have to look for where they are, it almost sounds as though they may have gone to a training site, a training center, and been told that certain things should be used to organize your writing, but then it breaks down when they're not used. They try to manipulate us, or manipulate the test, but then it falls apart once they get past that transitional sentence or something like that, or the topic sentence.
That's right. And I think that machine scoring puts more weight on the mechanical aspects of writing. And I want to tell you a very funny story because I think everyone will appreciate it. A professor once wanted to try machine scoring. So he put a bunch of student essays through it. It seemed everything, seemed to come out well. Then he took whatever the topic was. I think the topic was on the use of smoke detectors, something like this. He took a letter of recommendation that he had just written for a student, and he put it in the machine. And he got 4 out of 5. It had nothing to do with the topic whatsoever. It was a recommendation letter. But he got 4 out of 5. And then he said, okay, now I'm going to try something. I'm going to replace some of the nouns in my recommendation letter with a more unusual word, a low frequency word. And he chose the word chimpanzee. And he randomly put, I think every 5th noun he replaced with chimpanzee. So a completely meaningless letter of recommendation to answer a question about fire extinguishers. And when he put it back in the machine, his score from 4 went up to a 5.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
So can the machine see mechanical aspects of writing? Yes. Can a machine detect low frequency words, yes, but it doesn't. I don't think a machine can really, maybe within the last year with the development of AI, this is older, my story is a bit older, but maybe with the development of AI, maybe they can do that now. But I don't know how much they can really understand what they're reading, right? So I'm not a fan of mechanical scoring myself. Yeah. Well, thank you, everyone. Is there any last comments?
Thank you, Michael. It was really enlightening, and I enjoyed sharing our views on the different categories of the rubric, and listening to others' points of view.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, next month we'll be back to talk about testing vocabulary. So I hope you can join us. Thank you for coming, and I'll
Thank you.
see you then.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.